Again, is there anybody who wishes to make a comment on anything that is not on today's agenda? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the citizen comment portion of the hearing, and we're going to move on to item number 3. Ms. Tusing, can you please introduce item number 3 into the record?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I would like to take an opportunity first. I'm sorry, I probably should have done it under announcements. We have a new planner that just started today with our public hearing section. Her name is Stephanie Edmondson. She's right there. She went to the University of California, Santa Barbara. She has over 20 years of experience in public and private sector planning, and we are very excited to have her here.
Welcome.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is item number 3. It's Land Development Code Text Amendment 1901. It is for street and structure numbering standards addressing. This is a legislative item, and Vicki Warner will be the presenter. It's amending the Land Development Code by amending Chapter 10, Transportation Management, Table 10.1, Manatee County Street Designation Chart, and Section 1001.8, Street and Structure Numbering Standards. And as I said, this is a county-initiated amendment, and Ms. Warner is here for presentation.
Very good. And again, this is a legislative matter, so you don't have to be sworn to provide testimony or comment. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Vicki Warner. I'm the Address Coordinator in the Building and Development Services Department. Before you today are the proposed changes to Chapter 10, Section 1001.8. The intent is to clarify some language and to streamline the street naming process as it is currently known. I'm going to give you a little background. I'll make it short. In 1985, when the first addressing ordinance was adopted, provision was made for the naming of streets when the design was such that the assignment of numeric designations would be difficult due to the various directional changes of the roadway. To deviate from that required review by several agencies and presentation to the Board of County Commissioners for their approval. Development in Manatee County over the number of years has veered largely from the gridded type system, as the roadways now tend to curve in many directions and go various cul-de-sacs, loops, turns, and it does not really encourage numeric assignments. And additionally, when we have the mapping technology that we have today, street names don't present the problem that they once were thought to years back. Part of the review process is to have public safety and the local fire districts review street waivers. They have done so consistently and has supported the street waiver requests, and that's the major change that we're asking today, is that this process be administratively approved rather than having to bring it forward to the board, because typically they are placed on a consent agenda and there is no objection from any of the responding emergency crews. The rest of the items that are in the list were basically just a little bit of a cleanup. Grammar issues, there's some redundancy that was cleaned up, removing a few things that we don't typically use, like road links when we're assigning street designations, suffixes and things. We don't necessarily use a road length. We take the direction that the road is traveling to assign, whether it's an avenue, a street, a circle, a drive. So those items. There's things like pikes that we don't ever use a pike. It was just a street suffix that was in the code for quite some time, and we've never used that. Publication 28 is a publication that is put out by the United States Postal Service. That's the standard that is set for us to use our suffixes and how mail pieces are addressed and mail's delivered. That's really the long and short of it. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for staff? Mr. Barnott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd like to bring to your attention, Vicki and her group have done a marvelous job, because we're going through a technology change today with our addressing. And one of the things that Vicki's been able to do is to coordinate and be the keeper of the address database for all of Manatee County and the constitutional officers. That's a substantial task that she took over, and it's working very well. So in the past, your address could be one thing here and something else in somebody else's office, but Vicki and her team are cleaning all that up. We're probably going to have a soft go-live in June, and in July, a hard go-live with the new process, the new software, which will help her immensely. So I just want to publicly thank her and her team for the marvelous job that they've done.
Very good, thank you. And being somebody who's actually had to use the code to assign addresses and street names, this is welcomed.
Thank you.
One question, with the speed that things change today, many times you'll have a subdivision that if you look on Google Maps or something like that, it doesn't yet exist, it's still a green field. Is the intent to maybe contract those reporting where that information gets distributed to people who might maybe use something like that for navigation? Will this be beneficial in that?
Unfortunately, when we're dealing with like Google Maps and NavTech and all those type folks, the data is there once we've assigned the addresses. It's there. It's up to them, up to those companies, as to how often they grab that data from our systems. So it's available. It's just dependent upon how often they do it. Some may do it every couple years. Some may do it every 6 months. So it just depends on the mapping, the software, how often they go out and get it.
And
But it is available.
within the Manatee County framework, when does it actually get assigned to either the property appraiser's office or the GIS system? Is it at plating or?
Primarily what we do is when a project comes in at preliminary plat, we're assigning the streets and assigning the addresses. Once we've gotten through that process, we ship that information out to property appraiser system, to IT folks, and they get that, and they're relatively quick turnaround that stuff appears on maps.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you very much. Any additional questions for staff?
No, sir.
No. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
all.
much. All right, we're going to open this up for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and make a comment on this presentation? Anyone at all? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion of the hearing and ask, are there any follow-up points? Anything? Staff, good? Good to go? Commissioners, good to go? Good to go. All right, very good. So what are we looking for today? A motion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. DeLesline.
based upon staff report, evidence presented, comments made at the public hearing, and findings, the request to be consistent with Manatee County Comprehensive Plan and in accordance with Section 341 of the Land Development Code, I move to recommend adoption of ordinance 19-27, amending the Manatee County Land Development Code as recommended by staff.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Ron, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the chair's going to call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, yes. So the next item we have is a quasi judicial item, which means you have to be sworn in. So if you intend to speak on this item, please rise to be sworn in. If you don't do it now, you'll have to do it later.
Swear or affirm that the factual statements and factual representations which you're about to present to the Planning Commission will be truthful and accurate.
Thank you very much. Ms. Tusing, could you please read item number 5 into the record?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Item number 5 is PDC 1821 ZP Sawgrass Storage. This is a rezone of approximately 14.74 acres on the south side of Moccasin Wallow Road at 9419 Moccasin Wallow Road Parish in Manatee County. The rezoning is from General Agriculture North Central Overlay to the Planned Development Commercial District, retaining the North Central Overlay. And there's also the adoption of a preliminary site plan for a mini warehouse and outdoor boat and recreational storage project. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Jamie Schindelwolf is the planner, and representatives for the applicant are also present for presentation.
Very good, thank you. So who do we have for the applicant? Good morning. If you could, please state your name and that you have been sworn.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name's Scott Rudisell with Blaylock Walters. I've been sworn, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant today.
Thank you.
This request is for a rezone from A to Plan Development Commercial with preliminary site plan approval. It's going to bring some much-needed self-storage to a rapidly developing area of the county. With me today, we have Rachel Layton and Nathan Crott from ZNS, Michael Yates, the traffic engineer with the White House Group, Dylan Reeves is the environmental consultant with Biotech, and we have Frank Agnelli here on behalf of the applicant. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel to present the project, and then we'll all be available to answer questions.
Good morning. I'm Rachel Layton. I'm an AICP planner, and I have been sworn. I'm with ZNS Engineering, and we're so pleased to be here today. So I'm starting with a concurrency map. Normally, I always start with an aerial map, but this is an area that has a significant number of entitlements. So we wanted to really start with showing you where we're located in the middle of all of this future growth. So FLM Inc., excuse me, owns a 14.74 acre parcel located on the south side of Moccasin Wallow Road, approximately 0.8 of a mile from Carter Road. So Carter Road is right here on Moccasin Wallow. So we're about 0.8 of a mile down the road. The property was previously used for aquaculture or fish farming. There are wetlands at the north end of the property that will be protected in this design. Using the county's concurrency GIS layer, we prepared this graphic to show development trends in the area. The site is quickly changing from agricultural lands to residential and non-residential development, as seen by these development entitlements from I-75 to US 301 along Moccasin Wallow Road. Surrounding approvals include Robinson Gateway DRI and Eagle Point. Those are both on the north side of Moccasin Wallow Road, west of the subject site. Villages of Amazon South is located north of Moccasin Wallow Road, east of the subject site. Parish Lakes DRI is to the west and to the south of the property, and Summer Woods is to the east of the site, south of Moccasin Wallow Road. So these are all very large-scale projects that are coming online, and right now there is no self-storage in this area of the county. So our client did do a market study to make sure that what we were proposing would be, as phased out, would be appropriate for the area. The property has a future land use designation of UF3. This area of Moccasin Wallow Road transitions between retail, office, residential at the interstate to mixed use and UF3. So it's really a transitioning area. UF3 is for areas limited to the urban fringe for low-density residential and support uses, following a logical expansion of the urban environment, growing from west to east with the availability of services. Neighborhood and community-serving commercial and office uses are permitted. The maximum floor area ratio allowed is 0.35. The project design proposes 206,000, I'm going to get it right, sorry, 645 square feet of mini warehouse on the 14.74 acres. That gives us a proposed floor area ratio of 0.32. As you can see, the planned Sawgrass Road extension is shown on the map as approved with the Parish Lakes DRI. Sawgrass Road will run along the western boundary of the parcel immediately to the east. So we have another parcel right here, and then this Sawgrass Road is going to run north-south and connect from Moccasin Wallow Road to Sawgrass Road, immediately adjacent to the east of the subject site, as approved for Parish Lakes DRI. So Sawgrass Road is on the county's thoroughfare map. The alignment is not quite the same on the county's GIS layer as what has been approved for that Parish Lakes DRI. So what this line reflects is what has been shown on approved plans. The project is in compliance with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. As Scott and Margaret mentioned earlier, the property is currently zoned general agriculture. The property is also within the North Central Overlay District. The proposed zoning request will amend the map from general agriculture, which is no longer appropriate at this location, to planned development commercial. The request is consistent with the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan. The change in designations is compatible with development trends in the area and the existing surrounding densities and intensities through the proposed site plan. I should probably say the proposed and entitled, because we're still seeing a lot of growth and entitlements coming this way. During the review process, we provided an analysis to land development code criteria for both zoning map amendment and plan development, and staff found all of those items consistent. So what we're proposing with this project is to build it in two phases, because we are trying to anticipate the growth surrounding us. So phase one is going to include 89,000 square feet of mini warehouse with a freestanding office and 61 boat and RV storage spaces. Phase one will include 12 single-story mini warehouse buildings, 20 parking spaces, and 3 bicycle racks. The office and one mini warehouse building will contain restrooms. And as I go forward, I don't normally tell you guys how many restrooms are in a facility, but it plays into our utilities discussion later. The project design includes a 50-foot thoroughfare buffer along Moccasin Wallow Road. Because this area, as you can see on my graphic here at the northeast corner, this is really a wetland here. So what we're going to propose is to maintain the existing native vegetation in the 50-foot buffer. We also have, I believe it's a 35-foot future right-of-way setback. So we're starting to push back, and then we're not able to start the project with any proximate building frontage. So the buildings are going to be set back quite a distance. We are providing 20-foot buffers to the east, west, and south property lines. Opaque fencing will be provided between the outdoor storage buildings. These single-story buildings will all have fencing in between the buildings. And so with the outdoor storage that we've got proposed, we have a 50-foot setback to the eastern property line, and that will have opaque fencing surrounding the outdoor storage consistent with the Land Development Code. The project design includes 63% open space, where only 20% is required. The open space is 9.36 acres of the 14.74 acre tract, and that's in large part due to the wetlands and the buffers and the drainage system that already exists on site that we'll be maintaining and preserving. The proposed building setback to the east and south are 20 feet, where the western property building setback is 280 feet. The western portion of the property contains ditches, wetlands, and an existing stormwater pond, and is also within the 100-year floodplain. So we're going to use that western property for stormwater storage and floodplain compensation, and really not propose anything other than soft improvements, site improvements, and no buildings on that side. The front yard setback to the office is over 400 feet from the property line as proposed. This is the office, this little... Let's see if I can get my mouse to hover. Right. Oh, I can't get it on there. Right there, that's the office. So it's about 400 feet from the property line, and that office is going to be maintained even in Phase 2. The boat and RV storages will be set back 50 feet, again, from the east and screened. Access to the site is from Moccasin Wallow Road. Because we have this existing wetland, we're going to use the existing driveway pattern that's been out there historically so that we minimize any impacts to what's been happening on the property, which means we're also requesting a variable width buffer to the wetlands so that we can have access to the site, which is allowable under the Land Development Code. The traffic study has been approved. The applicant will be constructing a westbound left turn lane at the project driveway and Moccasin Wallow Road. And then Phase 2 changes will include the deletion of the 61 boat and RV spaces so that we can put in a 3-story storage building of 117,597 square feet. We'll add 23 additional parking spaces, and we have the bicycle spaces in with Phase 1. So we'll be adding parking just kind of along here, and then they'll have a loading zone at the back. The buildings will meet the North Central Overlay District building setbacks. The building height is proposed at 45 feet and 3 stories. The North Central Overlay District has a unique building setback formula. So with a 45-foot tall building, we add 3.5 feet and then multiply that number by 3 to get the building setback from the property line. So in this instance, it's 145 feet setback, which is fine because we've got a very large wetland right here at the front of the site. We are still working with SwiftMud to verify the wetland lines, so it may be that it shrinks a little bit, but the building placement will only be adjusted as far as making sure the wetland jurisdiction line is verified, making sure that we have the 30-foot buffer, and then the 15-foot buffer setback. So in any event, I don't believe that that setback would change any less than 200 feet from the property line. So it's still a significant setback from the road. The plan is, okay, I talked about that. As this is a developing area of the county, the applicant is unable to connect to sewer at this time. So this is why I referenced the 4 restrooms that are associated with the office and then further down here in the single-story buildings. So we're proposing that Phase 1 will be connected to a septic tank, but we will construct dry lines for the sewer to run out to the property line, so that way, when the sewer line is extended along Moccasin Wallow Road, that we will be connecting to it as immediately upon its availability. So we've had some in-depth discussions with the Health Department and the Utilities Department about this. The connection is not tied to the phasing of the project, but tied to the availability of sewer. Because right now, that sewer line is 8/10 of a mile away at Carter Road, and 4 restrooms might be equivalent of 2 dwelling units for how many restrooms you're putting onto the service. So again, the transportation study has been approved. With this second phase, we'll be required to put in a right turn lane at the project driveway in Moccasin Wallow Road. So I keep talking about this wetland because it's a unique situation, and we're really trying to do our best to work around it. So this graphic in particular, we're asking for a specific approval for sidewalk. We'd like to pay the sidewalk fee in lieu of, so we'll have to give the county, if the specific approval is granted, we will work with the county staff to identify the estimated budget for a raised boardwalk that would cross the wetlands and then come across the site. Right now, there are no sidewalks in the area. And there are some projects that are coming along Moccasin Wallow Road. The future design to expand Moccasin Wallow Road is currently under consideration by Manatee County. The county road widening project will include the construction of sidewalks. The ultimate alignment of the sidewalk on Moccasin Wallow Road is unknown. Additionally, the property frontage is within this wetland, which is, of course, an environmentally sensitive area. So the request proposes no adverse impacts to the adjacent property, and the developer shall enter into a sidewalk agreement for payment in lieu of construction for a sidewalk. So usually, that part of the process happens during engineering design as we work with staff to identify what needs to be there, what type of a boardwalk, what type of structure would need to be in there, pricing it, and then coming to an agreement with Public Works Department before it goes to the Board of County Commissioners for approval. If it's not approved, then we're requested to construct it, and we agree with those terms. So the other unique feature with this wetland is with the county's requirement for a 30-foot buffer off of the wetland, the area where it's in a little bit darker gray across our roadway is where we would be impacting the buffer. So we're requesting the use of a variable width buffer, and we will enhance the buffer in this area here, so that we're sort of providing the compensation on site. So we did respond to all traffic, stormwater, and design questions during the review process. We worked with staff on the site plan design, the sidewalk and variable width buffer requests to ensure compatibility with the intent of the North Central Overlay District and consistency with future county projects. So we did spend quite a bit of time working with your staff to make sure that this project is consistent and compatible with Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan and the future growth that's coming in the area. And we did do a market study to show that self-storage would be supported in this area as all of these new homes are constructed. We received a positive staff report. We're in support of the stipulations that have been offered, and we respectfully request the Planning Commission recommend approval of the zoning and preliminary site plan today. That concludes my presentation. Our team is happy to address any questions you have.
Very good. And before we ask any questions, I'd like to ask the commissioners if there's been any ex parte communication.
Yes, sir.
Okay, seeing none disclosed. Just a couple questions. There's a drainage easement called out, and I was wondering if that's a public drainage easement to allow for water to flow off-site from the wetland?
Yes, it's a public drainage easement, and that will be maintained.
Okay. And then an additional point of clarification regarding the sidewalk waiver.
Yes.
Is that being processed with the application, or is there going to have to be a separate waiver that the board would have to approve?
It will come as a separate waiver that the board will have to approve. That the board first has to approve the specific approval, as I understand the process.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you. So it's going to be a separate process once it goes through the construction plan review.
Yes, and
or
it just
final
goes straight to the Board of County Commissioners. It's typically on a consent agenda.
Very good.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may
Ma'am.
add,
Yes,
their
ma'am.
stipulation number C5 does specify a sidewalk agreement as well. So if the
Okay.
board does grant the specific approval at a later point in the process, they have to enter a written agreement specifying the payment amount.
Okay, And again, the payment will be calculated based on a boardwalk as opposed to a
Correct.
sidewalk, even though we're calling it a sidewalk agreement.
Yes, that's the terminology.
Yeah, very good. Are there any additional questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Roth.
Can you tell me how many units are going to be in here?
We have not finished the layout. I don't have a number on how many units that we'll have.
Okay, so you don't know them by size or whatever.
No, and not at this stage of the design, we don't. I don't have floor plans for each of those buildings at this point.
Okay.
But there's a general overall area that's been established. Is that correct? That was the,
Yes, so Phase 1 is going to have 89,000 square feet, and Phase 2 will add another 117,000 square feet in the three-story building.
depending on how you cut that up is.
Right, so a
Probably the
typical
question.
unit could be 100 to 200 square feet, so it could be 500 storage units at build-out or more.
I understand that at the beginning, you're going to have RV storage and boat storage?
Yes,
But when you build a three-story building, that's going to go away?
yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Very good. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. We could, staff's presentation, please.
Good morning, Jamie Schindewolf, planner with Manatee County, and I have been sworn. So as stated, the project before you is Sawgrass Storage. The site characteristics are as follows. This is located in North County, just south of Moccasin Wallow Road and east of I-75. They are requesting a rezone to PDC, and they're seeking approval of a preliminary site plan for a two-phase mini warehouse outdoor storage project. As explained, Phase 1 will include only single-story buildings for 89,048 square feet with 61 boat and RV storage spaces that are under canopy. Phase 2 will remove that and replace it with a three-story mini warehouse building, and the total build-out will be 206,645 square feet with an FAR of 0.32. The future land use, as stated, is UF3. UF3 is intended for residential and support uses that are projected to develop following logical expansion of the urban environment from west to east. Allowable uses in UF3 include low-density residential and medium-density clustered residential uses, short-term ag, neighborhood and community-serving commercial and office uses, etc. This, of course, falls under those commercial and office uses. Currently, the property is zoned general agriculture, but they are requesting a rezone to PDC. This is consistent with the nearby trends in zoning where we see a lot of development into planned development zoning. As explained by the applicant, Sawgrass Road, is planned to expand to the east of the site, which will bring the project into compliance with commercial locational criteria. Here you can see the two phases. I put them side by side so you can see how the yellow disappears and turns into a full storage building in Phase 2 on the bottom there. There are no actual wetland impacts proposed, but as stated, access to the property will require buffer impacts and a variable width buffer, and they will try their best to mitigate that on site to the south, on the south side of the wetland. The building design will be in accordance with the North Central Overlay Design Manual, and the project will have 20 parking spaces at Phase 1, 43 at build-out, as is required by our code. They are requesting specific approval, as stated, for the sidewalks along the northern property line. Our code requires sidewalks along major thoroughfares. When the development is adjacent to only one side of the thoroughfare, the development is typically required to construct a sidewalk on the side of the road that is adjacent to the development. But staff is in support of the specific approval to pay in lieu of that sidewalk due to the aforementioned restraints that they have and the future expansion and modifications to Moccasin Wallow Road. Our code does contain 531.31 outdoor storage specific use criteria. They meet all of these criteria. Their lot dimensions are adequate to meet the district regulations. They are setting all of their buildings at least 20 feet from property lines, and in some cases significantly more so. They provide a network of drive aisles for maneuverability, which is also included under this. They are not proposing to store any hazardous materials, any rubbish or animals, things of that nature. They will not be using the space, the mini warehouse space, as office space. Like you won't be able to rent a mini warehouse and have your home office in there. Screening is in compliance with our Land Development Code, Section 701. They are not using alternative berms or a design that is incompatible with surrounding uses. They have agreed to meet all landscaping criteria regarding foundation plantings. And then the final 531 criteria is not applicable to the Plan Development Commercial Zoning District. It mostly applies to some of our straight zoning districts. Staff sees this primarily as a positive project. It is west of our future development area boundary. It will bring a new use to an area that seems to be largely approved at the moment for single-family residential. The only major negative we see is the septic at first, but it is a very light use of the septic, only 4 restrooms. This isn't the sort of business where people are coming and going all day and spending a lot of time there necessarily. And they will be providing the opportunity to hook into sanitary sewer as soon as it's available. Staff recommends approval with stipulations.
Very good, thank you. One question regarding the outdoor storage criteria, is lighting a consideration in that use?
That is not listed under the 531.
Okay, is that fall under a different category or classification or description with regard to storage?
I'm not aware of any, it'd just be the general commercial lighting, and we do review a lighting plan when they come in with their
Okay.
future phases.
So
or
it's something
future
that is
plans.
critically reviewed when the application's submitted?
Yes.
Okay, because I did notice there's a PDR adjacent, not directly adjacent, but very close by, so, okay. All right, very good. Any additional questions for staff? Mr. Roth?
So Floridian at Moccasin is no site plan, that hasn't been built yet. And Parish Lakes DRI, I see there's no site plan there either. But these are the abutters to the property. This is gonna be a 75-foot high building. 45 or 70?
45.
45, okay. So all of these homes that will be built, what's the maximum height of those? 35 usually for a
2 stories.
two-story, is that correct?
Typically 2 stories.
And no abutter is here complaining about what might be happening in the future, because this is what they're gonna be seeing from their buildings. I don't get it. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good, thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and open this up for public comment. So if there's anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and make a comment on this, please do so. Anyone at all? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion of this. And I do have one additional questions. We got a report, this is for Mr. Nabel. Are your comments in the staff report reflective of the information we received as a handout, specifically with regard to the variable buffer widths?
Rob Knable, I have been sworn.
Yes.
As far as are you talking about the new report that came in?
Yes, sir.
Right. The new report, from what I know, is reflective of it. It's as far as where they were giving their analysis is based on the road that's existing in there, and as far as where they're placing it, as far as environmental, we're good with that.
Okay, so this information doesn't change your staff report, your comments on your staff report?
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Just wanted to get that on the record.
Okay.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments for staff? Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and provide staff closing comments. Anything from staff? Okay. And then it's applicant rebuttal. I don't know that there's anything to rebut, but.
So the only thing I was going to add, and again, Scott Rudisill, just for the record, to Mr. Ross' question, The property owner for the Parish Lakes DRI, FLM Inc., is actually the applicant here. They're a joint venture in this project. There's also a very large wetland area to the south of this project, so, and then there's a 200-foot or more setback from the west, and then another parcel before you get to the Floridian. So there's huge setbacks from any adjoining, the adjoining projects you were talking about.
Thank you. Thank you. Any additional closing comments? Okay, all right. Applicants signified that they're okay. All right, we're going to close the public comment portion of this and go into deliberation. So what's the pleasure of the commission?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. DeLisle.
Go ahead.
based upon staff report, evidence presented, comments made at the public hearing, and finding the request to be consistent with Manatee County Comprehensive Plan and the Manatee County Land Development Code as conditioned herein, I move to recommend approval of Manatee County zoning ordinance number PDC 1821ZP. Approval of a preliminary site plan with stipulations 8.1 through 8.2, B.1 through B.4, C.1 through C.5, and D1. Adoption of the findings for a specific approval and granting specific approvals to Land Development Code Section 1001.6A1A, requesting payment in lieu of construction of a 5-foot sidewalk along the northern property line as recommended by staff.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Ron, second. Any additional deliberation or discussion? Hearing none, the chair's going to call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to item number 4, correct, Ms. Tucson? Can you please read the item into the record, or? Yeah. Is everybody here?
Again. Yes.
Okay, very good.
Right, everyone's here? Thought I saw them come in. Or I could talk really slowly. Okay, item number 4 is Plan Amendment 1809, Sarah Bay Development. It is a small-scale, privately initiated amendment to both the map and the text. And this is, they are changing, the request is that they are changing to, they are requesting to change the comprehensive plan from low-intensity office and residential 3 dwelling units to the acre to the retail, office, and residential future land use classification. It's a total of approximately 4.37 acres that they are requesting this change to. And the overall property that they own is approximately 8.81 acres. It is located at 7045 North Tamiami Trail in Sarasota. They are also providing for a specific property development condition in the text of the comprehensive plan to limit the number of residential units and square footage of non-residential uses within the property. This is required because it is located within the coastal areas. And this, you did see this previously. It was for the entire site, and they have reduced their request. This is a legislative item, and both Rosina Leiter is the planner, and she is available, as well as the applicant's representatives for presentation.
Thank you. And for clarification, you said we saw this before.
Yes, I don't remember what hearing.
It was January 17th.
Thank you, January 17th.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And again, this is legislative, so it's unnecessary to be sworn to provide testimony or comment. Thank you. So the applicant, can you please introduce the application and tell us a little bit about it?
Good morning. Shelley Johnson. I'm a planner with Ensight Inc. Nice to see you again, and thank you for accommodating my delay in getting here this morning. It seems like no matter how much you anticipate what's going to happen on I-75, you can never get it right. So anyway, so this, as was mentioned, Margaret mentioned, this has been before you back in January. And let's see if I can get this thing to work here. There it goes. A little too far. Okay. We had originally proposed to amend the land use designation on the entire 8.81 acres. At the county commission meeting, there was a fair amount of public testimony and concern with potential adverse impacts to the Whitfield community, which is located to the east and a little bit to the north and south. And so we continued that meeting and decided to come back and sort of reorganize the project and look at it again. And so we've come back now with a very different amendment request. And so now it's the same request to the ROR land use designation. However, it's only for the western 4.37 acres. So it's the portion of the property that fronts along the US 41 corridor. Just to kind of briefly go over some of the surrounding uses. Again, this really hasn't changed from last time. There's still primarily residential uses to the east. The north, south, and west are a combination of retail and commercial uses. Come on. Again, just overview, the property, the reduced area of the property still falls into multiple overlay districts, including in particular the coastal area districts, the Whitfield residential overlay, the urban core service area, and again, the US 41 corridor in this location is considered an urban corridor of Manatee County. Concurrent with this, we have a rezoning application in that has also been amended to reflect just the 4.37 acres. So if we look at the analysis of the density and intensity for the property, the top table shows that based on the 4.37 acres, the allowable density today would be 24.5 residential units. The square footage allowed would be just a little over 66,000 square feet. The proposed acreage obviously is the same. We've limited the density and the commercial intensity to the same so that there's no increase in density or intensity to the subject property compared to what would be allowed today without the amendment. And you can see the average density is about 5.5 units per acre. As I mentioned, the property is in multiple coastal planning areas that encourage minimization of populations in these areas and really direct populations away from this area. The transportation study showed that with an FAR of 0.35, there were no adverse long-term or short-term roadway impacts, so we're proposing to maintain an FAR of 0.35. And the project would be conditioned with a limitation of 24 residential units and 66,624 square feet of commercial retail use, which is consistent with what would be allowed today on the property. So as conditioned, the property remains, the project remains compatible with the proposed land use change. As I said, it limits the density and intensity to what would be allowed there today. It's adjacent to a major roadway corridor, and could provide commercial services to nearby residences as well as traffic going by on US 41. All of the infrastructure is available to the site, and it eliminates the potential of commercial uses adjacent to the Whitfield community. The designated division line, if you will, is about 340 feet west of the Whitfield community. Comprehensive plan consistency, I've presented these at the last hearing, but the plan remains consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan. One of the things that the county commission asked us to do was to coordinate as best we could with the Whitfield community and work with them in as much as possible. We had a meeting on April 22nd with their zoning committee. I think there were about 6 people there. Generally, the review was acceptable. The proposal was acceptable. We also went over the zoning application at that time. And then we have a meeting scheduled with their actual community association this coming Monday. So we plan on meeting with the entire neighborhood on Monday. With that, I'm done. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yes, just looking at some of the maps that were provided in the staff report, it looks like, I think it's Jungle Way, maybe the road doesn't fully lie in the right-of-way, is that your understanding? Or is that just a graphical misrepresentation of,
The line on the right-of-way, you mean at its intersection with US 41? Is that,
no, just along your property boundary, the northern property boundary?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
The right-of-way
Yeah. It does
established
abut the-
through ownership or track boundaries doesn't
Oh.
appear to have the road actually in it. It seems to be shifted in it. Is that accurate
I
representation?
don't think so. I mean, our property abuts the right-of-way of Jungle Way,
Right, the right-of-way, but the physical location of the road within it.
is outside of the property, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It appears to be different in the graphics. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
These are, not very clear, but I've seen that occur previously, and I just didn't know if that was the case here. It looks like Jungle Way, in some instances, maybe actually falls within the property owned by your applicant. So, any additional questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and get the staff presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Rosina Leider by the staff, and I don't need to swear in today. As the applicant says, this application was seen by you in January 17 with, for the entire property, that is 8.81 acres. And after you, the Planning Commission approved 7-0 the application, after the board meeting, the board requested to review the boundary of the proposal to be more compatible with the Whitfield neighborhood, and the applicant is reducing the area to 4.30 acres that include the entire area that is under OL future land use category, and a little portion that is like a half acre in the rest tree. Let me show you. This is the future land use category, and if you can see, is aligned more or less with the existing PDO zoning and a little portion of the rest tree future land use category. And here I mark what is the area in yellow. You can see the parcel that was proposed before, and right now delineated with blue, the area that is proposing for the amendment. Anything changed in all the analysis unless that right now the provisions are to reduce the amount of square feet to 60,625 square feet and 24 residential units, since the entire property is with the coastal evacuation area, and prevent that you cannot increase density. Staff is in support of the application and think that is compatible with the trends in the area and with the change of circumstances in the area. That is, the site is along of along US 41, that is a really busy corridor. If you have any questions, I am willing to answer.
Any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, Mr. Gerstenberger.
Mr. Chair, for the record, Thomas Gerstenberger.
All right. Mr. Chair, first off, for the record, Thomas Gerstenberger, Public Works Department. With respect to your prior inquiry about Jungle Way, I did have time to pull up the boundary survey that was supplied with the application. And the payment of Jungle Way itself is outside of the limits of this particular project. Based upon the boundary survey, there is a 50-foot right-of-way that is provided for Jungle Way. Portions of it is based upon the historical plat of of Whitfield Estates, and another portion, the portion where it swings towards the northwest, was provided as relocated right-of-way pursuant to a deed book. So to re-answer your question again, the pavement itself is outside of the limits of this project.
Okay, very good. Very good, thank you. One additional question. This is a single parcel, is that correct? This is a single parcel? All, the part that's being modified, the comprehensive plan modification and the remainder property are a single parcel of land, correct? Is there any concern from staff with regard to changing the uses? Is it going to be, is there a requirement to split? Is that going to create any issues? Is that a concern from staff?
Either by the records, I don't think so. There is many cases that we review that we have part of a parcel in the project and the other portion remain the same without any changes.
Okay, all right, just wanted to.
The other portion gonna remain with the same zoning, RSF, and in the same future land use category that is RES 3
Okay.
and RES 6.
Okay, I just wanted to understand that because if the uses don't seem to be consistent, it's, at some point, I presume it would probably be spun off, but that's really not what we're here for.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I mean, at this point, we don't know what the development intent is, so, you know, that really will dictate whether or not you split the parcel, if, you know, the eastern portion is developed residentially and the western portion is development with non-residential uses, and we would deal with that at the final site plan stage.
And I think, are we certain that the legal description is only for that portion and not for the entire property?
That we included with the ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I've just seen that happen recently where they mistakenly included the entire property, so. Any additional questions for staff? Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to open this up for public comment, so if there's anybody in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on this, please do so now. And again, this isn't a quasi judicial, so you don't have to be sworn, so. Anybody at all? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we're going to close the public comment portion, and we'll go to staff closing comments.
No.
Sure? You want to talk about the property somewhere?
Want to talk about parking?
Traffic? No?
Is this on septic? All right, very good. Applicant rebuttal? Very good, thank you. All right, if there's no additional testimony for the application, we're going to close the public hearing, and Chair will consider deliberation or a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. Excuse me. Based upon the evidence presented, comments made at the public hearing, and technical support documents, and finding that the request to be consistent with the Community Planning Act as codified in the applicable portions of Chapter 163, Part 2, Florida statute, and the Manatee County Comprehensive Plan, I move to recommend adoption of Plan Amendment PA 1809 as recommended by staff.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Ross, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, the chair is going to call the matter to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. So is there any additional business for the commission today? Nope. Okay, very good. We're going to go ahead and close the meeting, and thank you all very much.